Ooh, what's happening, man? Okay, so I watched the video from last night back, the Duat video, right? Which I've already had some I put a post game up, my first post game video up, with some interesting thoughts and interesting, you know, supplemental information that I'm going to be exploring with the concept of duat and the, many scriptures that reference how Satan is the Lord of this world, the ruler of this world. And how that I find that very, very fucking interesting. But so, I'm not even I'm just kind of watching and listening to stuff. Sometimes that's how I give my mind a break, is I'll just check out some other shit. But before I do that, I'm listening to the video back, and actually I finished it. And I'm on a different video, and then kind of almost, I won't call it intrusive, but I just had this epiphany. I wasn't thinking about it, just had this epiphany, because the main reason I was listening back all the way through was because I had this feeling that there was something that I brought up that I wanted to actually talk about, actually do a video on. And I thought it was going to be a short video. I don't think that anymore. I think it's going to be the topic tonight, or today, whenever I get to record. The concept of the inner monologue / dialogue, which is another thing, excuse me, another thing that I don't see too many making the distinction between, but there is a distinction. So I mentioned that there are beings that do not have an inner monologue. Let's just say inner voice. That kind of covers both the monologue and the dialogue, right? There are beings that don't have that. They don't speak in their mind at all. And so I remembered a video that kind of introduced me to this concept, this difference between some beings and other beings, and it's a very high percentage of beings that do not have an inner voice, an inner monologue, right? And in this video, it's 11 and a half minutes long. I'm gonna put it up in the community section if you want to watch it on YouTube. This dude finds out that there are people that don't have this, and it freaks him out. Just like it did me, I'm still freaked out about it. There are so many possible implications for that. And so he doesn't just find out and kind of let it go. He finds out and he's like, oh, I need to know about this. Much like me. I need to know. I want to know, as much as possible so that I can start kind of building some theories around that, because I think that directly, kind of goes into my research. It goes into a big part of my research, namely the NPC thing, and the many different types of potential NPCs that there may be. And that I don't like that word or distinction, but again, for the sake of conversation and not having to qualify every single time, I'm just going to start saying that. I think if it offends or if it sounds harsh, that's not how I mean it by any means. But so I'm watching this video, and he's now interviewing her, right? He asked for questions, and he's asking these questions. I asked you all last night, what are other things that they have or don't have that we have or don't have, right? So one of the questions was, do you dream? And she says yes. And then he says, do you hear dialogue when you dream? And she thinks about it for a second. She actually stops and thinks about it, and she says, you know what? I don't think I do. What? And that doesn't freak me out as much, because I've said before, one of the ways that I know that I'm having a dream myself, an organic dream that's not, induced by frequencies, I don't want to have to explain that, but essentially we're all blanketed by frequencies that are just projected 24/7. If you don't even want to hear the conspiratorial version of that, Wi-Fi, microwave, radio waves, RF signals, and that's just the stuff that everyone is willing to acknowledge. There's also HARP and all these other more nefarious frequencies that are also being transmitted 24/7 for nefarious reason. So because of that, not because of that, I don't see faces in my dreams, in my personal dreams. That's how I know that it's an organic dream. I don't see faces, but I'll know that it's you. I feel that it's you. I interact with the being just like I usually would. If it's, someone that I don't know, I think actually I may see their faces, which is interesting. I've never really thought about that part before. So if I know you, or if you're it's almost like if you're an integral part of the plot of the dream, I don't see your face, especially and specifically if I know you, I don't see your face. And so when I do see faces, I know that is an induced whatever. I don't necessarily want to call that a dream. I don't know what that is. But that's a whole other topic. I may talk about dream stuff again because I'm really into that and what all that shit means. But so that's why it doesn't freak me out as much, because obviously there are nuances to our dreams. Our dreams are so whatever the fuck they are that you can almost not necessarily be freaked out by someone else's dreams, because there's no physics to it. There's no rules to it necessarily. But it is interesting, though, that she doesn't have an inner monologue and also does not hear monologue or dialogue when she's dreaming. He asks, "How do you read?" And her explanation for how she reads is, it makes zero sense to me. To try to paraphrase, she says she sees the shapes of the words and they make a framework that she can access or see after she's read the sentence. I have no idea what the fuck that means. And, it is very interesting. So he then asks, and these aren't in order. He asks, "Do you like spending time alone?" She instantly says, yeah, I like being alone. And he says, "Well, so during those times, are you going crazy? what do you do?" And she says, "I usually have to be doing something." She says, "Oh, I don't just kick it. I gotta, this is me talking. This is how I talk, not how she says it. But basically she's saying she doesn't just kick it and hang out. She has to be doing stuff, cleaning, cooking, whatever." Also interesting. When she reads, she is mouthing it. So she's still speaking. She's just not adding, she's not using her throat chakra, but she is mouthing the words. So, you could see that as still, in a way, speaking. And to be clear, the way that it's being said is that if she wants to think something, she has to say it. It's not that there is zero capability for thought. That's not the right way to say it. I don't know how to say this, but when she basically, what those of us that have inner monologues, when we want to think something but don't necessarily need or want to say it, we can just think it. She is saying I'll just say she, because I'm going to watch more of these for the full video later. She can't do that. She has to say it or at least mouth it. She has to say it or at least mouth it. Which is, what is that? That's very robotic to me. That's very robotic. And again, I'm not trying to be a douche, but kind of lends to the NPC thing. He also mentions with the reading thing, when they take tests, I guess this is a fellow student, when they take tests, it could be 100 question exam. She's done when he's on question 12. again, very robotic, very robotic. And I tried to watch, it's only 11 minutes and 30 seconds. I tried to watch this whole video, but this is too many things. I didn't want to forget all this shit. This is too many things that are weird as fuck. I didn't get any answers from you all as to what they have or don't have and so on and so on, but like, I didn't need to. I'm going to these videos and they're just, it's so different from how, I won't say the average brain, but how my brain, along with many others, seem to function and work. And it is very, very robotic. It's very robotic and program-like. It seems very program-like, wherein our processes don't, and it maybe I'm saying that or feeling that because it just seems so natural to me. And I've assumed this whole time until very recently, some months ago, I think, or maybe a year or two ago or something, that this was how everyone functioned. I never even considered this to be a possibility. And now that I know that it's you know, a thing, it's just blowing my cap back over and over and over again each time she details something about how she functions. It's so foreign and alien to me that, you know, this kind of goes into two parts of my theory. One part of my theory is that we were at some point sort of, for lack of a better, you know, terminology, invaded by another species, another group of beings, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if that's not a very clear distinction of two very different types of beings, I don't know what is. And just because they look like we do does not mean anything. There are other things that could qualify and kind of give more clarity to the potentiality for not being the same, for not being the same beings. There's many of them, actually. And we're so caught up in these indoctrinations and, you know, and manipulations with race and, you know, pigment and all that bullshit that we're not looking at the things that really, really differ, you know, from being to being. Pigment is not important. You can tan, you can be albino, you can have vitiligo, you could, I mean, there's all kinds of things that show pigment is not an indicator of what or who you are. It is just pigment. There are norms, but even within those norms, there are anomalies. There are families that are all, you know, copper-skinned, and then they have a literally Caucasian-looking child, organically. There are similar situations in the other direction. These and even features. There are features that could be passed on that don't present within the you know, first family, the nuclear family that you're born into. They may come from, you know, ancestors farther back, or they may not. You may look Asian and no one else in your family looks Asian. Not all the way, maybe just like features. These things indicate to me that we have been indoctrinated for the longest amount of time, at least from my perspective. I'm not that old, obviously. I'm not even 100. But that our pigment indicates what we are and who we belong to. What if all of that framework is false? What if all of that has been given to us to keep us from figuring out that we are one, but there is another distinction for different species, different types of beings? Think about that. There are beings that do not have an inner monologue. They don't speak in their head. If you have that, if you've always had that your entire life, it's likely that you're like me and you hear that and think, what the fuck does that even mean? How do you do these processes that we all do? They do them also, but to hear them answer these questions, what's happening, Cosmic Commercial Universe? I'm kind of on a tangent right now. This shit's freaking me right the fuck out. Real quick, I'll explain. Like, I'm talking about the large percentage of beings that don't have an inner monologue. What, like, to hear them explain how they do the things that we do, for real, sounds alien, sounds robotic, and within my theory that I'm working up of kind of what all of this is and why it feels so weird and foreign without, just relying on dogmatic Abrahamic instructions forced upon you, things that, potentially a lot of it is correct. I'm not saying that it's wrong necessarily, but I believe because of the manipulations that have been added to it by the Roman Catholic Church and so on and so on and so on. Oh, you want to come in? Hell yeah, come in, bro, because I'm tripping right now. To kind of like be a little clippier when I bring somebody in for the YouTube folks. I'm not going to say I apologize. I'm working on a fix for that, but at the same time, these are beings that are, coming to the live stream, and we can just chop it up organically. So I'm probably still going to have some videos like this sometimes. Let me see. I always try to do this, and it always gives me the grief. Let's see. Yeah, the invite's out. It does this sometimes. But I'm tripping, man, because, the implications of this are heavier than I think a lot of us even give credence to. Like, and there's a common theme of, for us, those of us that are kind of opening our eyes very, slowly. For some of us, sometimes they just shoot open. Mine seem like they've done that. But the thought that we've had before, where it's like, you try to explain some truth. You try to explain some things to those that might be in your family, friends that you've had for years and years, and they just don't get it, right? Some of them get angry at you, and that Agent Smith effect kind of happens, right? This is like that. What if the person, the being that you're living with, that you share a life with, what if they're one of those? And I'm not trying to create like an us and them thing. Just what are the implications of that? That is something that I can't just stroll by. I can't just stroll by that because it could explain certain things. Some of the things that are malicious or hurtful or terrible that they might do, that could explain that. Whether it's conscious on their part or not, it could explain how, you're telling them, hey, what you just said really was messed up, or what you're doing is unfathomable to me. Why would you do this to me? That could explain, why sometimes when you do that, they just look back at you like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Because when I have that happen, I'm like, what I'm talking about. You have to know what I'm talking about. But what if they really don't? Okay, let me send you another request, bro. There it is. What if they really don't understand because of these little hints that I'm starting to see? And I mean, there's a lot of them. There's the physical one too. What's happening?
Chilling.
Man, I am tripping. I got goosebumps right now.
You're gonna be all right, bro. You're gonna be all right.
Oh man. Look, I know because we talked about it, but between that AI thing, bro, that tripped me. That was the first thing that happened to me today.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. When I seen that post from you, like I kind of chuckled. Not to laugh at your trauma, but that type of shit been happening to me for like 6-7 years, bro.
Yeah, I mean, and so I have a lot of like anomalous stuff happen, and I talk about that on my channel. I haven't really gotten too deep into it. I'm kind of trying to get used to sharing this type of shit because people will just instantly call you crazy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wear that like as a brand of prowess.
Yeah, and I do.
Somebody called me crazy.
It's like
you identify yourself, you didn't identify me.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. Is it's like, look, if you think that the very logical thing that I just pointed out to you is crazy, bro, that is your issue, not mine. That means you are in denial or you have some kind of delusions of grandeur, or I don't know what that is, but I'm not crazy because I'm paying attention. That just means you're not paying attention, or like I'm saying right now, potentially like that is a different type of being, you know?
Well, that's why I wanted to hop in, bro, because you just touched on my new favorite hot topic, and that's inner monologue. I created a design on it and everything. Inner
Oh,
monologue
word?
streaming, because yeah, bro, because when I found that information out last year, that shit fucked me up, bro.
That's when I found out. I was trying to like pinpoint because I know it hasn't been that long, but it's definitely been more than a couple months, bruh. So when I found out, it did kind of blow me back a little bit, but I think I was moving and doing all kinds of stuff, so I was just like, that's weird, and I definitely tripped on it for a minute, but it didn't do me like this. I'm into I've started doing all this research. I'm working on a paper. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. A video, probably a video dissertation of some kind or something. But like now that I'm revisiting it and I have all this other mental, information and research, it's fitting in with all of these other theories that are coming together to make my main theory. And
Mm-hmm.
this one's big because a lot of my theory has to do with things that are more on the side of like intuition and like text and experience that's not necessarily my own, you know interdimensional entities and all kinds of stuff that you can find research material, but you can't corroborate a lot of that. You can
Yeah.
find multiple stories, but you can't say this is true. But with
Right.
this one, it's like
This,
they're straight telling you I'm not talking in my head, and I
bro,
just can't.
I'm not gonna lie, man. Since I heard that information, I think I want to say I found it out maybe like 6 months ago, and since I heard that, I think about it almost every day. And for a lot of the reasons that you're saying, like the Agent Smith implications,
Hmm.
uh, the shit when you know you're speaking logically and a sound mind, and then people just give you the blank stare as a response, like as
Yeah.
if like you just invented language.
They
Like,
fight you. That one's. I mean, the blank stare. I think sometimes I'm like, okay, well, maybe you just not. Maybe you don't have the faculties to comprehend what I'm saying. Not
well,
saying that that's what it is, but it's possibly. But when
but it's
it's
a
like,
it's a
go ahead.
potential. It's a very specific blank stare. I'm gonna show you. It look like this. It's like you say something to somebody and they're like,
Okay.
like they
Yeah.
stuck. You know what I'm saying? They stuck. Like it's like they defragging.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, look, I'm not gonna stop doing my research because this is to me it's my great work. It's my opus. It's very important, if nothing else to me, but I think it could benefit others also, even if just to be a springboard. You feel what I'm saying? But
That
like
part.
sometimes, you know, shit like this, bro, I keep getting the I keep getting the fucking goosebumps, and I'm like, hey, look, it's still no fear, but what the fuck? What the fuck? You know what I mean?
So
Like,
if I could, help you out a little bit, we'll just share with you how I'm processing it.
okay,
Like at first, like I said, I was completely just jarred and looking at it externally at all of the people, like, damn, like what? Just like you saying, like, what's going on in your mind? Like, how are you processing things? Like, what is your day to day? Like, what the fuck is that? And I didn't stay long on that, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like, maybe for a week. Like, that's where my train of thought and my focus was. And then once I started to entertain that Agent Smith type of notion,
right,
I, it immediately allowed myself to see myself as Neo.
right,
So it's like, all right, well, I'm not so much so worried about the fact that you don't have it. Now I'm looking at myself as what am I supposed to do with it? Because
oh,
because if
true, true,
I have it and other people don't, it's got to be for a reason. And my past is indicative of that. It's
So
like,
I actually said that. I said that too. One of the things I said was, okay, so that is one of the things that's very common for me to say on my channel is I'm not a teacher. I'm not trying to teach anybody nothing. I'm doing this to find y'all. You feel what I'm saying? Like in my some you know summary of this place or vision of this place, there's not just me here. I can feel others here that are like me, and I consider y'all to be family. And so I'm talking a specific way so that y'all can, like, let me know that it is vibrating with you, that it's resonating with you. And that lets me know, okay, this is another one of us. This is another one of me, right? So within that, like that I came to the same thought where it's like, it's not necessarily so important that they don't have it. That's just another indicator of, as much as I hate to say it, a separation. Because I'm not a hippie or nothing like that. That was a whole, movement created by an agency. But I don't want anyone to hurt or anything like that. But the more research I do, the more indication that I get that there is a situation where there are at least two very clear sides, and there are beings that are on the other side that maybe either don't know that they're on the other side. Some of them very clearly to me know that they're on the other side and are doing things specifically to attack and torment and torture those that they've been placed around, and that starts to get into the simulation stuff and all that. But like from my position and all the research I've been doing, that doesn't sound crazy to me because of the many different scenarios, just personally, that I've gone through. There are situations where I've been at a house kicking it, and this random person that I've never seen before turns very robotically, looks at me and says my government name, like it's checking to see if it's me. It said first name, last name, like that, like a question. And I made up a name. I made up a name, and I was like, oh no, my name is blah blah blah. And they like tripped out for a second, and then they did it again. And I'm down the street from my house, so I freak out for a minute. I'm kind of like walking around the house. I walk out of the house a couple times and smoke, and I'm like, bro, what the fuck do I do? I just left. I didn't say anything to anybody. I just left, dipped out.
that's what I would have did. I ain't like shit. That would have been my course of action. Oh yeah, I'm out of here. But
And things like that, not specifically like that, but things that are as anomalous as that are not uncommon for my experience in this place. So I guess for the sake of, there are beings that are like, hey man, what's your obsession with this? It's not an obsession. This is what I'm living. I'm trying to make sense of what I'm living. If it's not what you're living, that's perfectly okay. You can keep watching. I'm not trying to tell you not to keep watching or listening to the talks that I have, but if you wonder why it is I am so perplexed and why I keep going into these very, occult and esoteric topics, it's because of the fact that I'm trying to make sense of something that has been at first slowly shattering and is now just completely falling apart around, not around me specifically, but you could say overall as a reality. All these like crazy wars and geological things happening, like it just, all of it comes together to be a sort of group of clues almost into some shit that I was not aware of. You know what I mean?
The veil of deception is slowly dissolving, and for those with the eyes to see and the ears to hear, they're picking up the pieces of the reality as it's meant to be seen versus how it's been presented.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I could say to you, and I seen your post last night, and I heard you say something, and you just said it now, and I don't want you to take offense, but I want to make a correction because I don't want you to say it again. And that
What's that?
is that you're not here to be a teacher. And it's okay to be a teacher. It not only is it okay, it's necessary, and it is at the root of our culture. Where we're our whole success and how we've been here for millions and millions and millions of years on this plane is predicated on oral transmission of history. Each one teach one. And
True.
the best way to learn is to teach, because you're creating a positive feedback loop. So
Also true.
is more so for yourself, and I'm not saying this, to come at you. I'm saying this to share with you insights that I've had to come into, because I was at the exact same place. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy.
Yeah, I get it, and it's pretty much the same thing for me. It's not necessarily that I'm saying I don't want to be it. Actually, I do kind of not want to be. It's like my intention. Okay, that I'll say it like that. My intention when I started this wasn't to be a teacher, and it's still not necessarily. It's like beyond secondary. I understand that there are beings that are just, they're a year behind me or 2 years behind me or 10 years behind me as far as like the things that I've studied and the things that I've come to know and so on and so forth. And I understand that that could teach them. And I'm happy for that. In fact, I said that in the Duat talk last night. It's just it wasn't my intention at first. And it's still, when I think about it in conscious thought, it's still not my intention, but I think somewhere subconsciously that I say that I have this thing with my throat chakra where I feel drawn to document. I feel drawn to speak.
That's what I was about to say. It might not be your intention, but it might be your calling. And that's where the importance of branding comes into play. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, because even if your intention is not to brand yourself as a teacher, that's what the impact is. And the impact is always going to supersede the intention. And it's going to be more beneficial, not just for you, but for everyone involved, if they know who the message is coming from. It's like, what's a good analogy that I could give? Like, if, for instance, right? So I tell people a lot of information about digital stuff, like digital creation, content creation, marketing, or whatever. And sometimes people question how I know what I know. So I have to qualify myself. Okay, I went to school doing this, or I had experience doing that.
Right.
When if I would have led with that, then they wouldn't have questioned it. And that's where, specifically as melanated masterpieces being oppressed, we have been taught to be humble and not lead with our accreditations and why people should listen to us. But when you go into these other rooms with these other people, and I learned this during the lockdown, participating in a bunch of different Zooms and a bunch of different business meetings. It's like, when you in them squares on them Zooms with them other people, they are unapologetically practitioners of the filibusters when it comes to talking about themselves. They will talk about themselves 20 minutes before they give the statement that they want you to listen to. And somehow we're doing it in reverse. Like, hey, look, just listen to me. And then we get into this defensive stand because we don't trust each other's information. So it's better just to go ahead and present yourself as you are and who you are, because that's how people are going to see you as a teacher. And it's not so much so because that's what you are, is because it's what you're doing.
That's okay. Yeah, that is. Yeah, I can't dispute that. I can't dispute that because, and I honestly, I got into like a thing with a viewer the other night, and there was some other stuff to it too. And there's no like hard feelings with them or anything like that. I think that a lot of beings are going through difficult times right now, but they kept kind of adding context to things that don't exist, like basically saying like, well, do you feel like maybe you should change the way that you speak because of what may be in misinterpreted from your talks? And I was like, no, I don't. I'm very careful with what I say. I try very hard not to be offensive to most groups. The ones that I do say offensive things about, I mean them. It's not to say I'm not an absolutist. I don't believe that any group has all good people or all bad people. That would make zero sense. But
Right.
when I say, for instance, stuff about Canaanites and ex-Canaanites, I mean that shit because I can show I can show you a whole bunch of shit that
Right.
has led me to have those, inclinations. And so, what you're saying, that resonates with me in a better way than how they were saying it. I think more so than anything, it was the fact that there was like a level of like, you need to do this, or basically felt like saying, I'm telling you to do this. And I'm like, no, I think my faculties are there. I'm speaking very clearly and calmly. I'm not, coming at anybody crazy necessarily, except for those that I mean to come at crazy. And
Right. That's the problem, though. People don't accept that you're willing to take a definitive stance of opposition because we live in an age of agreeableness.
true.
So,
Yeah.
not presenting yourself in a politically correct way where everyone can agree with you, then that means that you need to make an adjustment, especially as a melanated man, because we're supposed to be agreeable. We're not supposed to have our own thoughts and be people taking cues from
Yeah.
us. But
We get looked at as aggressive if we take a stance and don't have the wobble on it. If we don't, if we're not willing to wobble back and make adjustments, then we're aggressive and rude and so on and so forth.
no, this assertiveness is not is non-racial. Like anybody can be assertive. It's
Right.
just that we've been branded aggressive, and other people who are assertive have been branded superheroes when they utilize that same type of communication style.
Right. Even in the other direction, stoicism. You know what I mean? I'm not really too deep into stoicism, but it's like,
I
if, especially with those in my personal life, I've come to the realization that if you're doing that Agent Smith shit, or even just we disagree on something that's not that big of a deal, I'm not finna argue with you. I'm not giving you my energy in that way. I'm not wasting my energy in that way. So if I don't say anything back, I'm not necessarily trying to be rude or to be disagreeable with you in that sense, but like, it's not worth it to me, and I don't enjoy the experience of this progression in aggression.
right,
You disagree, I disagree. That's gonna have to be okay unless you are willing to compromise. If you don't want to compromise, then we ain't got shit to talk about. You know
right.
what I mean?
Nah, yeah, there's no reason to go back and forth, bro. Especially with someone who is not trying to gain any type of understanding. They're just trying to be right.
Trying to be right and trying to make you assimilate. That's my thing is, if you just want to be right, I'll let you be right in your head. You feel what I'm saying? But once you start trying to like change, and I've said this before, it's more so when you start trying to change, to push me off mine
Yeah,
or assimilate me into your set of thinking. I don't like that shit at all. I've never liked that. That's why I don't like academia. That's why I don't like specific circles. I don't move in specific circles because it's, for them, it's not okay for you to have a different lens, a different perspective on a similar topic. And to me, that shows nefarious intent, at least.
absolutely. It's manipulation at its highest example, and that's really what the whole world is predicated on: is narcissists
Yep.
using manipulation tactics against people who are unaware or not capable of defending themselves.
Yeah.
And this brand that I have now that I'm talking under is to help combat that through merchandise and clothing. So one of the designs I have is unapologetically stoic. Uh, Another design is melanated masterpiece. Another design is, if anything I say seems overly abrasive, just pretend it's rap music. Because at the end of the day, I want individuals like us to be able to just be able to wear the clothes and not have to speak or get into these dumbass engagements with these simpletons.
Hey, it's funny you say that, bro. I collect like T-shirts and shit, right? It's just something I started doing from playing music, right? You get lots of free merch and stuff like that from the other bands and other acts and stuff like that. And I started to notice like, oh, I can make statements without having to say anything, and we can skip a whole bunch of bullshit if you just read my shirt. And
Yep.
I thought that that was cool, and I thought it was funny, so I collect shirts like that. I do that same thing. That's crazy. That's wild, bruh. That's a
That's
really,
literally
really
the only
good
reason why
idea.
I'm here on these little rectangular boxes, bro. That's it. That's the only reason.
Yeah,
And
that's
to
sick. I meant to put your a link to your shit on the other video that I mentioned you. I said out loud, go check out your shop. But I'm a remember if you would DM me too so that I can remember. I'm gonna put it on the YouTube stuff too because there's a lot of brands out there. There's a lot of beings that I really don't like this system in its entirety. And that does include capitalism. It includes the fiat monetary system and all that shit. But there are beings that are showing what I also say, which is that you can exist within this without being of it. And there's very clear distinctions of beings that can do that. And there are others that are just like money hungry, don't really have much to them, two-dimensional type shit. And so if when I come across beings that are really doing it, like I'll promote that.
I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah,
That's 100.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
everything you're saying is spot on, man. And it's the lines have been clearly drawn, and people are making a decision and actively choosing ignorance, debauchery, and evil. And it's really the fault of the people who know better not really stepping up and voicing their opposition. That's the problem right now. That's how I see it. And it's really just a matter of us collectivizing and showing like they're not gonna do anything. Like they like they can't do anything. Like they're fucking weak. Like it's
It's
okay. Just
crazy too,
speak your
because
mind.
like I feel like sometimes, or not sometimes, because I've made a conscious effort to kind of pull back a little bit. I still mention it at times, but I don't do like whole videos about it so much anymore. Not to say that I never will again, because I probably will, but I've talked a lot about cults, and the fact of it is, what a lot of beings don't remember or realize even is that the reason that cults work is because they build off of information that is either true or it's sexy to you. Like they use information that comes from truth and then they bend it to manipulate you. And there have been platforms and other beings that run those platforms that I've watched turn into cult leaders. I've watched them turn into cults that are losing themselves within their message. They're losing themselves and they're losing the message itself. And it's okay for us, to have different views of this experience and what we're supposed to do with it and who's who and all that old bullshit. But there are certain parts of it that, for me myself, I view as you're stepping over a very thin but clear line where you're now creating a cult and you're not following the message that you may have had even 3 months ago. You know what I mean? Like,
That kind of goes back to what you were saying. I think that's because people are absolutists, and once they buy into anything, an idea, a doctrine, they when someone envelops a belief system, it's hard for them to entertain anything outside of it,
true.
and especially if they don't 100% believe it. Because if they don't 100% believe it, now they're going to go out to try to prove it against other people that might not even care. So that's
You know
why you
what?
get like the
To,
belief.
to build onto that too, there's the ones that I'm kind of speaking of. one thing that I've noticed is that they're almost building themselves, not even almost, they are building themselves up to be demigods at the least. And so those beings that are following them, it's not just that they're following the doctrine and the ideology. They're now, if this being decides, I used to believe this, or I considered myself to be this, but now it's this, now we on this, they follow them
Right.
without question. They
Right.
don't ask themselves, am I cool with that though? Like, that's way different than what you was saying like 2-3 weeks ago. Let me hold on. Let me think about this for a minute. I don't know if I'm cool with that. They don't do that. They just keep following. And so from the outside looking in, I peek in on circles. You know what I mean? Even if I don't like necessarily run with what they're doing or saying, I want to know what's going on around me. I say know my enemy. I don't want you to be my enemy, but if it's that, it's that. You feel what I'm saying? And I'm going to know what you're doing for as long as I can until you block me out, because I want to know what I'm up against. And I'm watching as they slowly, I don't know if it's conscious or not. I'm not trying to put nothing on nobody, but it seems to me that there's no way you couldn't know that you're shifting your message and your overall stance to this very different, crazy thing. And you're dragging these beings with you and not really giving a fuck if it harms them or their experience.
So like that everything you said goes back to what I was saying about the point of branding yourself as a teacher. And when I was saying that, I'm not saying for you to actively start your lives with like say, hey, I'm Gamma the teacher, right? I'm saying I'm saying not to say that you're. I'm saying, well, how do I verbalize that? I'm saying don't verbalize that you're not a teacher,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Because
I can feel that.
because the people that you're talking about are actively saying, hey, yeah, follow me, I'm a teacher.
That's true. You're right.
Right?
No, you
So
that's a good point.
and so
And I
it's
do care. The reason there's many reasons why I agree with what you just said, but the main one is because as much as I also will say that I'm doing this research and I'm sharing these, I'm documenting for myself. It's not just for me. Even if I tried to like lie and say that it was just for me, I know it's not. And I'm not. I'm trying very hard to not be misleading or to lie or to not be as forthcoming as possible. And they are doing that, and it does bother me, obviously. Even if I don't want to admit it, I've talked about it so many times that it's obvious that it bothers me. You know what I mean?
no, it's I'm in the same boat, bro. That definitely resonates, and I think that's why we're here. It's supposed to bother us, and it's supposed to bother us to the point where we got to say something about it
Yeah.
because they got too many people blindly listening to them, and it's like, what the fuck are y'all doing? And this is where that some of those people who are following don't have no inner monologue, so we're not talking to them. It's the ones that do have an inner monologue.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, man. I coming back around, dude. As soon as you said it, the shit came back. It like washes over me, like,
Yeah, it's
uh,
gross, bro. This is gross. It's
what the
gross, bro.
fuck, man? And then like I'm not there. One of the things that I'm standing in now and that I'm promoting to the rest of us is like, you got to get more fuck it in your system. We are here. This is a weird place. This shit is weird. To ignore the negative experiences and the things that are objectively not resonating with us, that's delusion. So all that love and light only shit, I don't fuck with any of that. I think
Got it.
that that's dangerous and weird.
What are you
And
five? Like it's cool if you 5, I guess. If you 5 or 6 years old, like
right.
that's cool.
Yeah, you don't want to scar the kids or nothing like that. But even with my own, like I notice her kind of trying to like, oh, I don't like that. There's a little bit of like, some Toy Story violence. No blood, no nothing like that. And when they're super young, I get it. But I am we're raised a specific way, And I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure all of our parents that, have an inner monologue, let me say it like that, I guess. All of our parents that have an inner monologue, they tell you pretty quickly, like, hey, if somebody touches you, you touch them back. You know what I mean? You don't let somebody just roll over you like that.
Right.
And so to me, it's dangerous to tell them that and not have them see that there are consequences to different levels of response, right?
That part.
And it doesn't have to be some Toy Story shit, but like you turning off everything that can show him like people do these things and you need to be ready for that. Don't look for it and don't promote it. Don't go looking for it, but be ready for it. And if it does happen, respond, responsibly. And when you've, accomplished what you need to accomplish, stop. And I think that after a certain point, you like you just referenced, like you got to get up out of that. That's not what this place is. So when I'm so tired of these other beings of all pigments, you know what I mean? And I'm not heavy on pigment, although I am proud of my experience. I'll say it like that.
Right.
But like all these different pigmented beings coming up to me talking about, you have this negative message and trying to assimilate me to this all love and this is just a mirror, and the reason why you don't like the experience is because you're creating it for your. That's bullshit, bruh. That's
Bro,
you. Okay,
bro.
so then look at a sex slave and tell them that they projected that onto themselves.
Man. Yeah, man. The same thing has been happening to me. And as far as that response, uh, just boundaries, like these are things that, I'm teaching my son right now. He just turned 5 today. Uh, and as far as the level of fuck it that you're talking about, I have another design that I have on a sweatshirt, and it's more of a mantra that I created that honestly saved my mental faculty, and that is being indifferent to indifference.
Hey, repeat that for me. Sorry.
Uh, just being indifferent to indifference.
Yeah.
Like it's
True.
very important for individuals who are positioned in a way to unapologetically present themselves as they are. You have to be indifferent to other people's indifference of your stance.
True. And I mean, I think that's something that I've like kind of embodied. It's one of those things that I've embodied and just never was like conscious of it. Does that make
Yes,
sense?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
But it's this is where I'm learning. It's not really for me to project towards people that, hey, this is how you should be. I'm just representing how I am as an option.
Right. No, that's exactly. Man, I guess I could have said it that way to that being that I spoke of earlier, but it's like, I mean, I said it a thousand other ways. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I'm not telling you what to believe or think or be. I'm presenting my findings. I'm documenting my research. I'm documenting my theories. And if nothing else, you don't have to take them as they are. You can take them as prompts and springboards. If your research and your experience brings you to something different, good, you know?
No, it's called insight, and that's where the art of discourse is lost. People aren't, like I say, really communicating for understanding and growth, or to build rapport. They're just communicating for one shot, gotcha moments. I was right, you were wrong.
Yeah. It's like you said, and I think it kind of goes into the same concept of like how we have been selectively indoctrinated to be more modest and to not want to come off as aggressive and whatnot. But it's like,
Not strong, only aggressive.
it's the same thing where it's like, okay, so I'm I'm presenting what what my stance is, and you're not going to push me off my stance. You may help to add to my stance, but you're not going to push me off my stance, right? And there are beings that, for instance, there's a lot of racial shit going on right now, a lot of racial supremacy and things like that. And what my research has led me to is that while it's more than okay, I promote being proud of your experience as what you've been your entire life. But there are things within my research that point to that being a manipulation. And that inner monologue thing is a direct example of what I mean, because there are some of us that look like me and you that have an inner monologue. There are some of us that look like other pigments that have an inner monologue. And for another example, blood type. If
Mm,
if I wanted to give you my kidney, can I just give you my kidney because you look like me, or do we need to check our blood?
yeah,
Right?
right. That's a good point.
There's things like that I feel like we've been indoctrinated with for so long that we don't even give a second thought to. And I think that that is potentially an active tactic by
Absolutely.
whoever it is that came here and did this, whatever this is.
Uh, Not all right. Well, so, woo, man. Oh yeah, I'm about to drop this one. So, uh, I'm pretty sure that you and I connected or crossed paths on 432 drop post.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about some dragonflies. Dragonfly has 33 color receptors, right? All right. A rainbow has 7 colors. Why? Because we only have 7 color receptors. What you just described is the enemy's plan to boil it down to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why you have all these people talking about this dumbass mirror shit. Like they're not only are they, but they've actively enclosed people's mindset in a 2-dimensional way of thinking, like just Republican, Democrat, all that. And it's impossible for people to get outside of that mindset if they cannot escape from seeing themselves from a dualistic perspective.
Mm.
Like, and that's where not only are people not able to do that, they're actively practicing that this is the way. I'm gonna stare into this mirror and it's gonna give me the answers.
No, that resonates too, because I've said a couple of times now, like the reason why I get that extra, you know, in my delivery sometimes is because, and I basically say the reason why I talk greasy like this sometimes, and I might seem angry, whereas I usually am just trying to like tell you something, or I'm trying to disclose something that I've found in my research, is because it's not just that, some others are having this also done to them. It seems like they like it. Like you like this shit, you know? And there's just something that doesn't really sit right with me with that. And obviously there's some kind of bleed over when it comes to, the potential for different entities, different types of beings here, whether it be what you would consider NPCs or these beings that don't have inner monologues. It seems like there's a few different types of beings inhabiting and populating this experience, uh, you know, this place. And it's almost convoluted when you try to make distinctions and, like you said earlier, draw the lines so that you're aware of each different type of entity, so that you can know and make distinctions of, okay, you're oblivious, so you're not an enemy. You're doing shit on purpose, so you're obviously an adversary. You're listening and trying to learn and adding to the conversation, so you're obviously family. It becomes real difficult because the nuances just between one being to another is it's not too much, but it's time consuming. I'll say it like that. It's definitely time consuming.
Nah, that's very well said, man. That's very well said. That's why it's uh, so the oblivious people, bro. Yeah, those are the ones, man. Like, fuck. Like, what do you do? But I'm laughing because like they're the worst ones because
Yep.
like, those are the ancient myths.
I keep saying it, bro. They'll get you killed. Like I know it sounds to some. I don't think it's gonna sound that wild to you, but I'm viewing things in the future. I'm seeing what is to come, and that obliviousness. You got to stay from around me with that. I can't
Yeah,
have that.
bro. Yeah, but it's silliness. Like, man, like
That's
there's some little
behavior that's going to get you and potentially others knocked off, and I'm not gonna participate in that at all.
yeah, no, but like there's especially on the internet, there's so many people who are just just out here, have no purpose. And like the one thing I've been thinking about is like there's no reason to destroy something that's already broken. And I'm not I'm like I don't have energy to.
I I'll admit that I've definitely caught myself after, how you catch yourself doing something after a few minutes, like it, almost like some Captain Save-A-Ho type shit, like like I'm trying to, like, not preach to him or anything like that, but I'm like, bro, you don't see that? Let me show you this, and this. You can't see that anymore. Like, for instance, I don't really have too many people that have the sand to try to deny it. But let's say someone was like, "Oh, chemtrails aren't real." Like,
Right.
hey, look, man, you got to get from around me, bruh. If you can say that with all of your chest to me, and we both can look up right now and see them, you got to stay from around me with that. I can't do
Nah,
it
yeah,
with
it's yeah, you can't just be communicating and exchanging energy with everybody because there's a lot of people who are actively choosing ignorance. And not only are they actively choosing ignorance, they're provoking anyone who is presenting any type of knowledgeable information because cognitive dissonance is aching to,
rampant.
yeah, it's aching to someone trying to kill you in some instances.
That's
So
what I was
like,
about to say. Is sometimes they're not just oblivious. They're feigning obliviousness. You know what I mean? Like I can see in your face that you know what I'm talking about, but you keep acting like you don't. And I don't know what that means, but I know I don't like it. Like, that's weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell the ones that are just like they can't see it. They either can't see it or they don't understand it, or it makes them fearful, you know? And while I have less and less patience, I'll say, for that, I can still comprehend it. I still understand. Fear is a very real hurdle, and can't nobody help you jump over that. You got to get that yourself. But
Sheesh.
those that are willing to feign ignorance or feign cognitive dissonance, that is very malevolent. That's malicious. There's something wrong with you if you do shit like that.
Yes.
We're not built like that. We don't do that.
No. That is that is yeah, nah. That is, just like you said, I don't like that shit, bro. Like at all. Like at all. Man. I don't like that shit at all. And
That sets off the spidey senses, bruh. Like as soon as there's been more than
painting,
a couple situations where you're in a conversation and they say something back to you, and instantly I'm just like, oh, what? Whoa,
nah,
say that
like
again?
that's I, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, yeah, like feigning is the best word, and I'm not gonna lie, man. You know, I'm older now, and I can clearly see that that has always been a trigger for me when it's come to things that have ended in violence.
Right,
Like
for sure.
when things have went to that level, it it initialized from like that type of mentality, dealing with someone with that type of mentality.
Well, what it brings me to is like what we were saying a couple minutes ago, where it's like, okay, so I'm trying to get the feel for the different types of beings that are in this terrarium with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't I can't forget the the background information, you know, or a better way to say it is like I excuse me, the context that I have as far as what other types of beings I have been in contact with, when you start feigning obliviousness or even worse, cognitive dissonance, you're acting like you can't get something when I can see in your eyes, I can feel that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
That doesn't just mean that you're one potential type of being. That means you could be one of these
that part.
three different types of beings. And that makes me feel on edge. And it like, so
Ditto.
now I got to worry about having to piece you up real quick or running away from you because that's the more beneficial option. I don't want to have to do all that, bro. You just gonna have to get away from me with that,
Yeah,
you know?
bro. That ditto, bro. I'm in the same space. Literally every day I decide to go out and play in this matrix. You know what I'm saying? It's because like I said, the veil is dissolving or has dissolved, or just depends on your perspective and your position. But them people know who we are, and
True.
the understanding that, or the understanding that I've had to envelop is they've always known.
That's what I was about to say is it makes it way more uncomfortable that not only do they know potentially, and for my opinion, this is just true. Not to say it's true for everybody, truth is subjective, but not only do you know more about me than I know yet, but you have known for a long time. The implications of that are that they're daunting. That's crazy.
Yeah, they probably about to shut this down, bro. It's look like it's a little agent in the building.
Oh, I see you. Oh, that's crazy, man. Man, my channel's been getting messed with too, though. Comments getting deleted. Uh, I've said before, the way that I talk and my appearance, they've been putting filters on both of those things.
Mm-hmm. No, we're not supposed to be doing this, bro. It's not. This is not popular. This is not trending. But it resonates. But it resonates. That's the problem. Like it resonates beyond what an algorithm can process.
That is true too, because I mean the attempts are there, but it's real weird, goofy shit. Like,
And it's like that's why it's laughable to me because when you have true understanding of just things, and specifically how they're being used against you. Not only can you protect yourself, but you can arm other people, and that's what makes them have to fuck with us, because we're a danger to making the dissolve faster and more widespread.
True. Because like even just one of the things that I've been able to glean from like why I'm getting fucked with like that is, comparing my topics, my talks to the other more affluent and I'll say um, established platforms, right? What I'm talking about is vastly different on a whole bunch of different levels. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking directly to those that are in charge of the, currently kind of toppling slowly paradigm. So I talk directly to them. I don't perpetuate or give credence to the indoctrination and the little psyops that they want all of us to be preaching and talking about, because that shit's stupid. You know what I mean? Um, there are it's very complex, and I think that many would think that because I'm not preaching that same instant division having to do with the pigment of our skin and shit, that means that I just love whoever, or but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they got y'all fooled over who the real adversary is, and over who can be your brother, who can be your who could be standing next to you in a phalanx when this comes to blows, because it's going to come to blows more than likely. You know what I mean? And you can take from that what you will. Maybe I mean it physically, maybe I don't, but I'm not saying that clearly. Um, but the reality is there's a reason why they are attempting to separate everyone like this. You spoke of it earlier. That instant duality where you're like, okay, well, I'm this, so I don't fuck with none of that over there. That's on purpose. That's intentional, and it doesn't make things easier when you can't just look at someone and tell if they're on your side or not. But that's just what this is. Just because it makes it more, difficult and not as quick of a process, that doesn't mean that you slip back into delusion and just go with the indoctrination form of this existence, because that's detrimental to you and yours. You know what I mean?
You know, that's facts. That's facts. You can't pretend like you're not getting punched in the face, bro.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not to say that even just we have been indoctrinated in that way. And I say they, and it's a very broad they. Others, I'll say it like that. Others have also been indoctrinated, almost to a similar extent, but not. I wouldn't say it's as vast, because for some reason, I will always admit, I will always, acknowledge that for some reason, those who do have this pigment get targeted far more than the others. I'm not saying that that's a reason for us to just be separated and not fight for each other and with each other, but that fact is, um, indisputable. You can't dispute that. Um, I'm not going to say that I know specifically what that means, but uh, it's a fact. You know?
It is a fact. Oh man, it's just like it's a lot of us right now going through the exact same thing. Um, and to me, really, at the end of the day, the answer to it is what we're doing right now,
Right. Right.
and there's nothing else to do. Like that's it. Because like I said, there's a reason why we getting punished, and uh, you can either say why me, or you can swing back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that the one of the many reasons why the way that we're choosing to begin to speak is optimal is because it gives the others that have also been manipulated and indoctrinated and so on, it gives them the opportunity to hear our position before interacting with us directly. You feel what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of the time they think like we've been saying, they think we're aggressive. They think we got a chip on our shoulder because of the way that we've been treated, and that we blame all of them for it. And while some of that stuff may be something that we're still working on shaking off, I can at least speak for myself and say I've never blamed a specific pigment for the things that I've been through. You know what I mean? Like, I can point to the real root causes, the real root archons, um, and it's they're they're being victimized in a different way, but they're still being victimized, even if it's from the position of you think that you're being given special treatment. Meanwhile, they're stabbing you in the back slowly, pushing the knife in slowly. You feel what I'm saying? Because they're,
Yeah,
looking,
yeah.
looking at some of the things that are happening right now. Are they providing all of a certain pigment with bunkers, or are they secretly making them for themselves and gonna dip out when the finale pops off?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
um,
That's fact.
to stay
Um,
in that delusion where, oh well, I look like this, so I'm gonna be all right. That's, you can either roll with that or you can snap out of it.
yeah, no, that's definitely some uh live getting shut down topic of discussions. uh, uh, yeah, that's on the whole because it, you know, w- we got to get to the point of even having people acknowledging that they being punched in the face
That's tough.
before we can get to the why they punching us. It's like, it's to me, the culture is asleep while a riot is going on, and they're getting woken up by getting kicked in the face one by one. So it's like they waking up. Like, you ain't got time to explain them why they in a riot. Like, get busy.
That's true. That's true. I think that it's not an absolute thing, but I think that many of us have gone through things within this experience before this started to ramp up that really got us prepared. And it's not even the same situation, so maybe this won't make that much sense. But it's like, we've gone through things to where, I guess I'll say it is, if we were asleep and things were to pop off, we would wake up more ready than they do. And maybe it does make sense because, like, I'm not going to say I've been on this specific line of truth this entire time, but I've always felt that something was off, always, since I was a kid. And now that I understand more of what the situation is, um, you know, obviously a lot more things make sense. But you're right, like, it, I guess I need to kind of remember that fact, because sometimes when I'm trying to, like, help somebody open their eye, like, I get frustrated because I don't just say a bunch of stuff. In fact, on my channel, I don't really say things that I can't show you, that I can't prove. I'm not one of those that does a whole presentation and shows you, as I'm talking, because my brain would just go off on tangents and I wouldn't be able to be, consumable. It's already difficult as is because my brain is constantly going on like 3, 4 different lanes, internally. So I make a point to let beings know I don't really say anything that you can't go find yourself. And, also there's always the capability to ask, DM or comment or whatever. And I try to get to every single one of them. In fact, I do get to every single one of them because that's an important aspect of it to me, to know that I'm not just talking out my ass. I'm saying things that I have done tangible research with, or studies, um, experimentation myself. Like, I'm really, really trying to do my best to not speak from a place of pure intuition. I use intuition because we need to, but it it has a basis in tangible fact.
Right.
You know.
Now, I'm the exact same way. Like specifically, I said the whole reason why I'm inside this little box was very orchestrated over the last 6, 7 years, and I made sure that I, I wasn't going to present myself until I understood everything that I was not only speaking about, but where to reference it.
Yeah, facts. Like, if you go back in the chronological sense, before I started talking, it was just like pictures and reels and little, text box tidbits of information. And
Right.
a part of that was me, wanting to keep that anonymity. But I noticed that that wasn't reaching, as many as I would have liked. And it's not to say the bit about not wanting to be a teacher. Maybe I say that sometimes because I'm trying to qualify this. It's more so that I want to make sure that I'm reaching enough to where those of us that will get it can further spread the not message, not news, but information. Like, because I do believe that there are many of us that have the capacity, we have the inner monologue, however you want to qualify it, but are maybe going through so much that it's kind of passing us by, or potentially we're not going through enough and it's passing us by because we're living in abundance to a level that is
Man, stop triggering me, bro.
I'm so sick of that shit, bro.
Stop triggering me, bro.
Man, and I think I really do think that that's a big one, because I think we're more of a group of beings who, when we go through things, it makes us more hyper aware. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
Man, look, man. I am Rumbling Thunder. That is my name. I am inside of this box to let whoever is listening now or later, it's electric. All this communication is electric. And when we're talking about, when I was talking about earlier, it's not about intention, it's more about impact. And that
right.
impact is your ability to resonate, and that drop's ability to reverberate. And that's where the true trust and belief comes into play. And that is in just, us within ourselves knowing that these droplets are a part of a storm.
That's why I had to start talking. Because honestly, bro, I didn't want to start talking. My anonymity was so important to me, like to
Sheesh.
a to an to an extent where you could meet me in public and I wouldn't even tell you my name. You feel what I'm
Oh
saying? Like
yeah, for
it was
sure.
that deep. But when I noticed that my attempts at putting breadcrumbs and apple seeds out there were not reaching anyone, not just not reaching enough, but not reaching anyone, I was like, all right, bro, well, you're going to have to talk. There's no other way around it. You're going to have to start talking because they're obviously not picking up on the things that you were trying to drop. So
I'm gonna say
you have
something.
to drop something heavier.
I'm gonna say something that's gonna resonate with you, right? Not only were those breadcrumbs not dropping or not doing what you expected for them to do, uh, in just some mysterious or uh, coincidental way, you're shown these things and they're presented to you as new information from things or beings that you know are ops, and it's presented to you in a way that seems to be antagonizing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, this is what you were trying to do?
Uh, uh, yeah. And even
Uh,
even to take it a step further, in some instances, it would be subverted or manipulated, maybe even only
yes,
slightly,
twisted.
to where
Yeah,
it would make it benign. It would no longer even have a positive impact anymore. It seems so close to what you were trying to convey, but just that little tidbit that
yeah,
got tweaked, just that little bit, made it benign.
gross. It's and that's the part where I was like, all right, man, like nah, I'm not I'm not that guy. Like you're not you're not gonna, passive aggressively bully me. Like what the fuck is that?
And there's I sometimes I look back at the videos that I make and I'm like, bro, you look crazy. But like you said, it's not that. It's more so that this is so new to so many that it still even feels off in a small way to me. But there's a video where I start directly talking about how, we're being attacked physically and poisoned in so many, like 7, 8 different ways, 24 hours, air conditioning, heating, the water, the food, like, and you still don't die. How many of us stop and think about that for a second? Look at how strong we are as beings that they're doing all of these things simultaneously 24/7 and we still don't die. And then for some reason I just turn my attention I turn my attention and start calling them like pusillanimous and talking about how they're hiding in caves somewhere. And I'm like, why don't you come see us in person, God body to whatever the fuck it is you got?
Nah, don't come see me. Don't come see me. Don't come see me. Don't come see me. So just now in right, back to 432 drop information, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about observation. Everything that you just said, right? Instead of stating the lack that an outer source does or doesn't have, think about the observation of knowing what it means to do the inverse in response to all of these poisonous tactics, not using microwaves, staying out of air conditioned environments, uh, going in the sunlight, eating watermelon, all of these doing doing the things that are in complete opposition to the tactics that are being actively implemented and working. Because to me, it's not so much about, and this is why I was going back about the teacher aspect, and I live now by cliches, just in regards, if we're speaking English, everything's about cliches. Otherwise, we're not really talking about anything, and we can dive more into that for hours, I guarantee you. But they're foundational for a reason. Each one teach one. Teaching is the best way to learn.
Yeah, it's the best example as well. It's
Lead by example. That's where I was going. Lead by example, and that's
I
all it's
think
about.
one of the reasons why I go off on little tangents like the one I did in that video is because beings are hearing these things that many of us are saying, and they're literally just taking them as direct and finite instructions instead of like, okay, so I start here and then I do more. I find more. I embody more. And so
Maybe.
they'll stop, eating specific foods, or they'll stop, whatever the thing is, but then they don't take any extra steps. It's like,
Well, maybe. I can see where you could think that
and I'm not
way.
saying that by any means in an absolute way or even in a majority.
Right.
Just,
Just as it comes. I mean, that's where it's important, as you were speaking about before, to just not be conversing with everyone, and especially in these boxes, these little energon cubes. Um, Damn, they're about to steal that and run with that, I guarantee. Uh, when when we're communicating, it's not about right now. And this is a talking point that I've been, dropping in people's lives for the last couple months. When we're having conversations in real time, it's not about what the individuals who are speaking is getting out of it at that time. It's about what the people who are listening in real time and after get from the entirety of the conversation once it's complete, from all parties involved, from all perspectives.
true. That's why I always kind of consider it and qualify it as documentation, because honestly,
Absolutely.
I would say I agree with that. I think that many times a being can take in some information in the moment, and maybe they can't digest that in the way that they need to digest it in order to embody it, or in order for it to apply in a positive way for them in that. But maybe 3 months later they listen back to it,
Right.
or 3 months later they find it. Maybe they didn't hear it
Yeah.
initially, and
And
things have progressed
99%
in
is
a
always going to be a right now type of thing.
yeah.
99% of the time, that's always going to be a right now. And is later is why we're doing it, is because that later could be tomorrow.
Right. Later
You know,
today.
or later today. It just depends on what each person encounters that's going to interact that trigger of having this conversation replay, or having a part of this conversation replay.
True. Okay, I see. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
So that's where about the teaching aspect. Yeah, it's not really about quote unquote being a teacher. It's just is what it is is understanding and appreciating teachable moments, and every moment is a teachable moment if you acknowledge it to be so.
And it's honestly something that I'm very big on balance, right? And um, to couple that with that whole modesty thing and the common archetype of the and this comes from all kinds of different mediums like anime, movies, TV shows. There's always this teacher that the protagonist or the group of protagonists they come into contact with or interact with that seems almost like an anti-hero that doesn't really want to be a teacher, or they're a teacher as some form of punishment, or whatever it may be, but they learn the most from this anti-hero archetype that is there. Whether it be intentional teacher or unintentional teacher. And even just that, the discomfort that initially kind of hits me as I speak or qualify myself, even in that way, is something that I'm still getting used to. Like the other day, I was talking to somebody, and or I think I might have even just been doing a video, but I was about to call myself a philosopher, and then I stopped myself. And then I re-stopped myself and said, no, fuck that. I am a philosopher. It's those little things that have been kind of implanted and embedded into the subconscious. That's like, don't pump your head up like that. That's too bold. You're being too bold. But that's bullshit. Hey, you're muted. It muted you.
Great. That was awesome. Uh, I was saying, yeah, fuck that, bro. That is literally why I'm here, bro. That is my energy. I am a melanated masterpiece, and so are you. I am that motivation to like get that like live it. Is you stop with this modesty, humility bullshit, bro. Like that's what's been programmed into us specifically based off of oppression. Like that isn't that's inferiority complex at its core to say I don't have a right to speak how I feel. And and not only do you have a right, you got a responsibility to do it assertively.
True.
Like
You know
otherwise,
what's
don't do it.
what's crazy about that? Um, it's something that I don't fully understand yet. How it's so intricate, but even like I notice in so many different parts of what you could call the programming or what you could call the experience or simulation or whatever you want to call it, is the concept of like almost like multitask modules. So each thing that I notice has multiple applications, right? So that modesty being implanted and indoctrinated into the subconscious, right? Another possible application for that. Say you do figure out that that's not a natural part of you, and you move to correct that. I think that it's also the intent that you overcorrect and become a narcissist or a supremacist or an abuser or however it could apply. It's that's why I am so intent on balance, because I can see where some of those other platforms that we were kind of referencing earlier, you can see that some kind of traumatic experience has caused them to overcorrect and to almost blind themselves in the way of not being able to see, okay, well, that wasn't true. What I was indoctrinated with wasn't true. But I also need to keep myself from being like all of them over there. You know what I mean? Like,
That's no, that's the overcorrection is that's the war because all of us have experienced some form of trauma from engaging with this machine, right?
right, right, right.
And it all presents itself differently depending on your experience and your personality and your ability to withstand trauma because everybody's not built the same, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's by design that the well is poisoned. If I know, well, at just get this out the way, first of all, right? It's either you're aware that you're being punched in the face or you're not. So if you're not aware, if you're still sleeping during the riot, I can't I can't talk to you. Like all I know is that subconsciously while you're sleeping, you can hear me.
True.
But to those who have gotten woken up by a kick in the face and it's a full on riot, like you can fight and understand who the enemy is and why they're fighting you at the same time. It's it's just a matter of, do you want to get knocked back out or not? And that's really where it's the danger. Some people just like, yo, somebody knock me out, like put me back to sleep. Like this shit is crazy. And not only we cannot we do ourselves a disservice by trying to communicate to them at the level that they're able to listen to at that moment, which is why we're in this situation now, because everybody wants to be coddled. Everybody wants to think about their feelings first. Uh, I don't like how you said that to me. And an analogy that I give is, if I run into a room and I tell you, everybody get the fuck out because there's a grenade under the couch, are you gonna be like, yo, why are you cursing at me, bro?
There's the overcompensation too, where, to use your example, say, a sleeper wakes up to a kick in the face. They immediately look around and see just chaos. They overcompensate and just start flailing just on anybody. That is a sure way to end up knocked the fuck back to sleep,
Yes.
because you're not moving with intention. You're not moving with intelligence. You're just doing anything your body tells you to do.
But this is the way I see it. This is the way I see it, man. If someone was asleep, because I can apply this to myself, if someone was asleep and they woke up during this riot and they got caught slipping and got knocked the fuck out, like there's nuggets that will reawaken you.
It's true.
So and that's just about proximity and who you're surrounding yourself around, right? And that's about what we're really talking about is who you're allowing your energy to be exchanged with. And that is not always direct. That's indirect too. And that looks like, who are you following and who's following you?
True. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like maybe those of us that are speaking just generally, because though it may seem as though it's not a fruitless effort, but kind of like a less generalized effort, it's actually creating a situation where you may be affecting other beings in ways that can help them to not flail as much, if at all, when they do wake up. Maybe they're more
Right.
prepared. Maybe they're more,
Absolutely. That's what it's all
resolute
about,
in how
bro.
they move.
That's what
Yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah.
not only is that what it's about arming them while they sleep.
Right.
So when they come into the fight, they at level 25. And while we at 5 and got, like 10% left.
Yeah, yeah,
Then they coming in at
yeah.
level 25, like, wow, all right.
Then beefing them up through osmosis almost.
Right. Absolutely. That's exactly what this is,
Yeah.
bro.
No, man, because like the concept of this place and how it sometimes has this almost figuratively anthropomorphic vibe to it. Like it can respond to you. I've said recently, last couple few days, like sometimes things will happen where it feels like it's defending itself.
Mm,
Like you might say or do something, and then it almost like brings something to you to be like, oh, well, don't be mad at me. It's just this
mm.
experience, you know?
Sheesh.
It's like machine learning. It's like machine learning to go with that whole, programming matrix terminology. If it is constantly paying attention and constantly micromanaging and trying to update its system, whatever you would want to call it, that's machine learning. And so, as it is learning from you, you have to be able to take in the stimuli and be able to adapt and to, not just view this as for self, but for the others around you that are also within the fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the only thing I can count on is that there are people with inner monologue, and just like I am and I was and I will be, are on a journey. And
Mm-hmm.
the point of that journey is inconsequential to me in real time because I
Thank you. Oh
because I
my!
have no
If I hear one more person say to me, "You're projecting this on," if you just change your perspective, this will all be beautiful to you. I can't. I can't do this with you. When you know what I'm saying? Like if you can live in that little nugget of goofiness all of your life and seriously hold on to it like a life jacket, I don't know what I can do to help you.
nothing.
If you can't
Let
if
let
you
it
can't
flow.
take one half of a step and say to yourself, okay, there are beings that are going through things that they're definitely not projecting on themselves, and then understand what that means for the rest of this experience, I can't say anything to help you. You know, it's wild.
Nah, nah.
I don't understand how are they doing that.
Well, and when I keep saying that's what I'm here for, like I'm not saying that on an egotistical way. I'm saying that as in this particular brand is a part of a project that's a part of a social experiment for a documentary miniseries
Nice.
called
Okay.
called 25 to Lifestyle Sentence to Thrive. And it is meant to be a creator of positive propaganda for melanated masterpieces of men to express how they view themselves as a success, and
Nice.
specifically to combat the narrative and the statistic that we grew up under of being dead or in jail before the age of 25. So it's for us over the age of 25 to narrate our stories and explain to the general public how we exist not as a monolith, but as the superhero and intellectual juggernauts that we are, and unapologetically, because not only is it relevant, obviously it's marketable.
Well, I like that too because, like I said, I have a big pet peeve. There's a huge thing that irks me that I see a lot of, and it's on the rise right now, and that's supremacy. The answer to these very specific issues and things that are going to fester and become aspects of the skirmish. I won't say the W word, the skirmish. Um, supremacy is not the answer to that. That is what is expected of us to do. That's what is intended for us to do because that it would, after a while, become our downfall. You know, um, pushing pushing and embodying a supremacy that only isolates you is doing the exact same thing that they're doing in other modes. Isolation. It's
That
getting you to isolate yourself so that you don't have any any brothers in battle. You don't have any sisters in battle because you've been saying that you can handle it all yourself the entire time.
absolutely,
That doesn't take
absolutely,
away from your capability. It actually shows your strength. It actually shows that you're capable of taking that damage and saying, you know what? I'm not going to let that turn me into a weirdo. I'm gonna take that and transmute it into something that can be used as
that
power.
part, that part. That's because that overcorrection is expected,
Yeah.
and it's really about internalizing what the expectation is, and countering, like using it as a counter, like based on your intellect and what you know to be true, and what's best for you at that time and with that moment. Because at the end of the day, if someone's trying to trick you, you should know why they're trying to trick you.
Right.
And once you know why, uh, it's either all right, I deal with this in a manner that is going to benefit me, or I just don't deal with it.
Right.
And that's where the true power of it really is because it's not a skirmish if you don't fight.
True.
Well, I hear my mini me coming up. I'm about to go ahead and give him give him the attention he needs. So it was great talking to you, bro, and
Hell yeah.
I really hope that we do this again. I'll probably be on later on in a couple hours.
Definitely, bro. It's good talking to you, man.
Peace, peace.
Peace.
Crispy.
Well, shit. All right, y'all. That was a quality, unexpected build. I am still left with the haunting realization that there are so many beings that do not have an inner monologue. This ended up being a pregame into a build. I might separate the two videos, put them both up on the YouTube. I'm not sure yet, but I do think that is going to be the topic for tonight's video is the clear distinctions between different types of beings, and by no means have I made it to like uh, a finalization point or anything like that. I think I'm just kind of documenting progress into that fork in the road, because if nothing else, I can definitely say that how this this one woman depicts her differences in not having an inner monologue and how that manifests throughout her operation, how she works, is wild. This shit is crazy. But I'm gonna do my best to separate those two videos so that I can have the pregame up and then I can have the build with Commercial Universe. Yeah, if you have any insight into beings that don't have an inner monologue, don't have an inner dialogue, um, things, aspects of them that I may not have covered, definitely hit me up, DM me, email, comment on a video on YouTube, whatever. It's gammaauobsidian on all those platforms. Gammaauobsidian on all those platforms. There's a Patreon. They just gave it back. A weirdo that may be watching my videos creepily on YouTube reported the first video, so I got sabotaged for a week. So there's only one video up on the Patreon right now, but I'm definitely doing a lot of work right now, so there should be more up soon. And there is a PayPal that obviously you can donate to Rasta Obsidian, RASTA Obsidian, but that's not, it would be appreciated, but I'm not really pushing that too heavy. But I have to pee, so I love y'all, and I appreciate you hearing me / us out. Bye.